Welcome to the Thrive Movement Community Guides interview series. Thank you for joining in as I introduce you to trailblazers in their field to assist you on your journey to thrive and not just survive. These inspiring change agents provide various perspectives and gifts from their own experiences to assist others to thrive in their lives. I'm Beth Myers, and I'm your host, and I'm the owner of Arrival Coaching. I'm a Law of Attraction Empowerment Coach, mentor, and speaker. This month's Thrive Movement, movement focus has been on thriving socially and emotionally. I am so excited to introduce you to one of my mentors, teacher, and a friend, Jill Hope, who's been a true inspiration and a guide for me. Jill is a writer, a family empowerment coach, and a motivational speaker. And she's the founder of iShine. Through her work with iShine and her passion for helping busy moms to bring out the best in themselves and their kids, Jill has designed several unique and innovative programs. Her programs support parents to build inner confidence, self-esteem, and build resilience in their kids, while spreading the message about the power that we all have to create lives of fulfillment, shine our inner light, and live accordingly to our unique purpose. In addition, Jill certifies and licenses facilitators to teach her iShine Inner Wellness curriculum, a social emotional wellness program for kids aged 9 to 12. She's also thrilled to be working on her forthcoming book, The Powerful Girl Within, which will be released soon. So Jill, thank you so much for being here and welcome.
Well, thank you, Beth. Thank you so much for inviting me. I'm really excited to be here today.
Yes, well, I'm just thrilled to have you be here as well and introduced to my community to learn more about what you do and your work in the world. So one of the things I wanted to ask you today is, what's influenced you to follow your path with assisting others in their social and emotional growth in their lives?
Yeah, well, starting out in my life as a young adult, I sort of felt like I had my stuff together and was really interested in personal growth and development. That's what I would read if I went on vacation, and those are the types of books I brought. So I devoured anything relating to spiritual growth, personal development, success strategies, and I used a lot of those strategies that I had learned in my life to create some really cool things. But when I became a mom, and it was something that I had dreamed about since I was a child, was starting a family, having my children, but it took us a little bit longer. So by the time we finally were able to have our son, you would have thought I would have been, over the moon, excited, and I was, yet I found it extremely hard, really hard, to the point where I started to question, can I even do this? Am I fit for this? And I started to feel like I wasn't a very good mom because I was having feelings of being trapped. And I thought, what kind of a mother would feel this way about her precious child, like she's trapped? And it seemed like all my friends having kids at the time weren't having any of these emotional difficulties in dealing with it. So I started to have a lot of shame and a lot of guilt over my feelings about my family and my child at that time. And on a kind of a daily basis, I would beat myself up in my head, that really negative self-talk. And my child was challenging. He didn't sleep very much. He was very fussy for a lot of the time. And finally, I got to the point where I think he was about 3 years old, where, he was very whiny, very clingy, never wanted to go outside, never really wanted to do anything. And I finally thought, you know what, based on all this knowledge I had about personal development and creating success as a human being, if I don't change how I am talking to myself in my head, how I'm feeling within my being, I am going to have a negative effect on this child. And I probably already was. And so I took the strategies that I already knew and I made some tweaks so that I could apply them to parenting and to working with my young son. And in a very short period of time, I started to feel better about myself. I started letting go of all the guilt and the shame, believe it or not. And I noticed changes in him. And I'll never forget one day my neighbor said, "What are you guys doing? Because Ian is not whiny like he used to be." I didn't even really realize that other people were noticing how whiny he was. So I knew that if I was having this problem, surely other people were. And so I started to bring those strategies out. I started my business. I started sharing with other parents, and that's sort of how iShine grew, and I got on that path.
Awesome. Thank you so much for sharing that. I think that's really important to understand people's journeys and the experiences that they have that bring them to work that they love and that they're passionate about. And a lot of times it really comes from that struggle that we have within, and other people resonate with that. And when you were talking about that path of personal development and reading all kinds of personal development books, I resonated with you because that's what I used to pack with me to go to the beach, to read on the beach, 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. It wasn't some novel. So, but we learned from our experiences, and I think that's just a good thing to always understand, that people that are helping us a lot of times have been on paths or been where someone may be that's resonating with your work. Moms feeling that guilt, that shame, and knowing that that's normal. That's something that people experience, and being able to move through that to thrive better in their lives. So thank you for sharing a little bit about your path and how you got to where you are today with iShine. What's some of the impact that you have noticed with some of your clients and the people that you mentor through your various programs and your individual or family coaching that you do? What are some of those highlights?
Yeah, well, it's interesting because I didn't initially set out even to be a coach necessarily, and especially not when it came to helping parents deal with bullying or peer issues. But I come to find out that actually we're having a lot of huge results in that area. And so people now, that's one of the biggest reasons people come to me, is if their child is struggling with peers in school, bullying, but not, bullying doesn't happen as often as a child feeling like they're just not really fitting in and not really finding a group of friends. And so some of the big sort of results that we've gotten for people with my programs is, stopping bullying dead in its tracks. I mean, that has happened numerous times when people come through these programs, which is so gratifying to me. And it happens very quickly as well. Kids suddenly feeling like, oh, I didn't know that I could think differently, and then that would have an effect on my world, and seeing the effect of it for themselves, and then their confidence just, flourishing within them. Moms who discover what they're passionate about, and that they actually can be a good parent and follow their passion at the same time and be really successful with it. Kids also discovering that, you don't have to wait until you grow up to live your passions. There are things you can do right now in your day-to-day lives to be living a life that feels passionate to you. And this really applies more to kids who are in those teen years, because I think younger kids, they sort of live it in a very present way, and they sort of, generally, love life, but when the pressures start to build up as kids start to go through those teen years, they can kind of lose some of that, and they can lose their way. So discovering what they're passionate about in those critical years of their development, I think is really huge, and we're able to help kids with that type of thing. Also, connecting a mom to her child in a deeper way. I'll never forget, I was working with this mom once whose 22-year-old daughter was out of the house, was living on her own, but the mom was really tormented about their relationship. They didn't talk that much. The daughter was doing some sort of risky things, and the mom was really struggling emotionally. And just by working with the mom only, I usually don't work with the kids. So just working with her, within 30 days, they had a dramatic shift in their relationship where the daughter started calling her. They got much deeper with each other. And even some of those risky behaviors started to stop with the daughter. She started stop doing them. So those are like kind of like dramatic big shifts that parents will see when they do this work.
Yeah, thank you so much for sharing some of those experiences, because there is such power in starting within and seeing the changes outside of ourselves in our reality. And a lot of times it's that, we look to outside ways to fix problems, things that, we're not really liking in our reality. And the thing that you and I both help people work on is shifting from the inside out. And when you can shift from the inside, look at some of the things that can shift and change, whether it's how somebody is treating you in a particular way, they kind of just, it stops, or things start changing and shifting as you do that inner work. And that's holding that vision and that space for them. So.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, it's amazing when, I always say that we are the center of our own universe, and people respond to us based on what we're putting out, and what we're putting out always comes from within. And so, when we try to change things on the outer, it's like, I'm sure you've heard this analogy before, but in a movie theater, if you don't like the movie and you want to get it off the screen and have another movie play, you can't just go up to the screen and rip it down, because that same movie will keep playing on whatever is behind that screen. You actually have to go to the back little room and change the film that's playing to see something different on that outer screen. And so, yeah, that's I think one of the reasons why the work that we both do is so powerful and happens so quickly, because we can actually change our thoughts just like that. We have that power, which is so incredible.
It is. And helping people step into their own power, helping them recognize that. And, I think that's a real shift that's been starting to occur more so. People are waking up to that truth, that there is that power that we each have within ourselves. And so thank you for sharing some of the experiences that you've had with your clients and people through your programs. And I know I was drawn to your work because of being a school counselor and your approach to focusing on how to assist with bullying and helping people deal with. And it really is a very different approach and a much more powerful approach than doing all the things out here to try to shift things. And that's one that I think is much needed to continue to bring that forth. So I appreciate your work in the world and how it assists others. So thank you. All right. Well, what do you like best about the work with the people that you work with and assisting them? What brings you that joy, that passion to see?
It's really about this piece we're talking about that inner power. I love when that spark goes off and a human being realizes that, oh, I'm not a victim to what's going on out there. It can feel like it, and we can say that we are, but the truth is you're not. And I love it when a person is open enough and willing to try to think in a different way. And again, we have that power. No one can think for us. So when you use your power of choosing how you think, and you start to see that, oh, when I change how I think, I'm seeing different things show up. That is so gratifying to me. I love connecting people with that power that already exists inside of them. Very fulfilling.
Yes, it is. Thank you for sharing that. I've heard you say before that perspective plays a really important role in a teen's ability to develop their inner confidence. Can you share a little bit more about what you mean by that?
Yeah, I mean, we always have a choice about how we're going to see any situation that occurs. But I don't think we always realize that. I think we feel that a lot of times that, you know, whatever happens out there is in charge of how we're going to feel. And that's actually, it's backwards. We decide, we tell ourselves a story about what's happening out there, and that story creates the feeling on the inside. So when you can change that perspective, and the perspective really is the story, it's what I tell myself about this situation, you feel differently on the inside. And when you feel differently, you open up to different possibilities and you get different results. So it's all connected. So one of my favorite questions that I ask parents to share with their kids to help kind of coach them with their perspective and being able to shift that is, when something happens that's negative in their life, is to ask them, what story are you telling yourself about this situation? And you know, they don't always, they're not always able to articulate it, but simply asking that question does plant that question in their subconscious mind, which will immediately go to look for the answer. So it gets them starting on a process that can help them uncover that. You know, with my son, he was 8 years old, and I share this because they're really never too young to start this process of asking these types of questions. Sometimes people ask, well, how young can I do this with my child? And I have always spoken to my child as if he was much older than he is. And I'm sure he didn't understand everything, but you know, over time, he is very, his emotional intelligence goes a long way now after he's 15. So anyways, he had this experience where he got offered the chance to try out for a travel baseball league. And he was really excited, and he'd never had this opportunity before. And I said, well, do you want to do it? And he said, yeah. And, you know, even if I don't make it, I'll just be so honored that I got asked. And I thought, oh, well, what a wonderful perspective so mature for an 8-year-old. This is great. One of the moments where I thought, oh, I must be doing something right. And he goes to the tryout, and we get the results, and he did not make it. And, you know, I wasn't really too worried about telling him because he had such a mature attitude going into it that I thought he would just take it like, oh, okay, well, I'll try next year. Instead, he was just so devastated and just like crying. And so I let him be in his feelings because I think that's really important, to just let our kids experience what they're feeling fully. And after he sort of moved through that, I asked him, what story are you telling yourself about why you didn't make the baseball team? And without a hesitation, he said that I'm a bad baseball player. And I thought, oh my gosh. So had I not asked him this question, he would have internalized that thought, I'm a bad baseball player. And when we internalize a belief, that tends to become a self-fulfilling prophecy. It comes out in the choices we make. It comes out in the decisions in our lives. It comes out in things that we say, all the little ways it comes out and sabotages us. And so because I asked him that, and he was able to share, I was able to help him see that that's not true. That is not the truth about him. We talked about things like Major League Baseball players. I mean, how many times have we seen them have a bad day? Does that mean they're a bad baseball player? Absolutely not. You know, we talked about how it was his first time. He didn't know what to expect. And he was rusty. He hadn't played in months. And, you know, we went through all of those things. By the end, he was able to see that you know, it just wasn't a good tryout. It was no reflection on whether he was a good or bad baseball player. So being able to coach your child through taking a different perspective when these challenges come up is so powerful in terms of helping them feel confident in themselves and not go down that negative limiting path that they can sometimes go down.
Right. And sometimes we help them kind of stay there by the way we respond. If we try to fix or rescue them feeling what they're feeling. I love how you said I allowed him to feel what he was feeling. That's so key to help them move to the next step. And, coaching your child through to get to that different perspective and move through some of those limiting beliefs is a very different paradigm from what can happen sometimes. And so thank you for sharing that personal experience and how others can learn from that to coach their own child, or even coaching yourself, as we experience situations that, aren't how we expect them to be. And, what's the story I'm telling myself? Great question. Thank you.
Yeah. And it's interesting because it's easy for us to want to have strategies to help our kids.
Yes.
But if we don't also do that approach on ourselves, ask our own self those questions, we're not as powerful with our kids. We can make a much more powerful impact when we do the same process as we're going through our own challenges. So I'm glad you mentioned that. That is really a key here.
Yeah. Does your son still play baseball?
He does. He is on his high school team. He's shaping up to be a great pitcher, and he loves it. So as long as he's happy, we're happy to let him keep going.
Yeah. He persevered and he moved through, and that perspective helped him maybe continue doing what he's doing and moving toward something that he's passionate about and really enjoys and sees himself as that, good baseball player, that being the best he can be as a player, as opposed to maybe being limited from some of the beliefs he could have been, experiencing.
Absolutely. And now when he has a bad day, he does have a tool. He can step away from it after he feels the feelings again and kind of look at it in a different way, because it's something that I've reinforced in all different situations in his life. It's about taking a different perspective. You own the perspective that you have on the situations in your life. And if you don't like how you're feeling about a situation, you do have the power change that how you're looking at that.
The power of choice.
Yeah.
Well, you talk a lot about how parents' beliefs, both their conscious and their subconscious, can influence their child's success. Can you share more about this and talk about what parents need to know so that they can support rather than sabotage their teen's success?
Sure. Yeah. It's whatever we hold within ourselves as a belief. And we all have our own beliefs based on our own experiences with life up to this point. We had certain struggles in our life. We've developed a worldview about what that means. And you cannot help but have your beliefs sort of spill out into your environment. Even if you don't state what your beliefs are or are even conscious necessarily about what all your beliefs actually are, they come out in the choices that you make, the things that you say, the way that you move through your life, how you handle things that come up. And so often, a lot of times people will come to me and they'll immediately want me to work with their child. And I don't work with kids other than doing, my mentoring programs and things like that. But I don't coach kids, and it's because I don't need to. Because the vast majority of the time, when a child is having a challenge and I can work with the parent on their beliefs around that challenge, everything for the child actually changes. And people sometimes don't, they have a hard time believing how that works. But I'll give you an example of a client I was working with once, and this is a common scenario, just so people can get their heads around it. But she came to me. Her daughter was being bullied in a classroom. She was, I think, 12 or 13 at the time. It was the end of the school year, and all of the girls in her class ignored her, except for one girl who was verbally bullying her day in and day out. And, like most parents, she talked to the school administrator, she talked to the school counselor, they talked to the teachers, she even called some of the parents. And I'm sure you won't be surprised, Beth, none of this worked. The behavior did not change.
No.
Her daughter didn't feel any better because nothing shifted. And so she came to me sort of in a desperation point. And I said to her, well, what was it like for you growing up? Did you have friends in middle school and high school? And her knee-jerk reaction was, oh yeah, I had friends. And then she paused and she said, well, no, wait a minute. Now that I think about it, when I was in school, I remember thinking that girls were mean. So I just sort of stayed back and I hung out with the boys. I didn't really make any friends with girls. I just stayed out of their way. And so I said, well, do you suppose that the fact that you have this belief that girls are mean, that could have any influence on what is showing up in your daughter's life right now? And she was open enough to consider that might be possible. So with that, they did some other work with me. And over the summer, surprisingly, this is one of those examples where her daughter became best friends with the verbal bully girl, because she shifted enough to where she drew out different qualities from that bully. And it was all because the mom shifted her beliefs. I never worked with the daughter. The mom just started to see it differently, and it was magical. And one of the things that I share with people to sort of help them see this is, if you have a feeling about people, like if you have a belief that, well, schoolgirls are mean, the girls in my class, I don't like them. Even if you don't say anything, we know what it feels like when someone walks in a room and they're in a bad mood. Yes. We feel that. Yes. Feel the energy of that person. And it doesn't draw you to them. It sort of makes you kind of want to go like this. You sort of have this pushing away feeling, this resistance. And that's what she was bringing into the classroom, was this belief, which was causing the other girls to kind of push her away and not bring her in. When she was able to see that girls are not mean, there are lots of, some girls might be mean, but many girls are very nice. And she was able to shift that. She walked in with a different energy, which allowed people to embrace her. And when she went back to school that next year, that's exactly what happened. She was embraced by the other girls. She was no longer excluded. She had that best friend who was the bully, and her whole experience changed. And the most powerful thing, I think, about this story is that girl actually said to her mom, I realize now, Mom, that it was me that didn't like them. So she discovered that she had the power. She was not a victim in that situation. And when a child realizes they have that power, their confidence soars. They can conquer the world at that point, because they know they are in control of how they feel, and that's all they need to do to be able to affect their world.
Yeah. Well, and it's so encouraging to know that, there's this awakening in our society, in our world, where parents are becoming more conscious as parents about what they say, what they believe, how that can shift things for their children and help make things better in connecting. And it's not, don't feel that way. Just stay away from those girls. They're mean girls. Those kinds of things, because that connection that a mother and a daughter have, or a parent and a child have, there's a lot of power there. And when we can start from within, it really can shift what we see in our reality. And I think that's just the powerful message of our century for people to become awake to and embrace more, to gain that power, not just to help kids, but also even helping ourselves as adults as we're trying to learn those things, because that wasn't part of our learning growing up in most cases.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, this is a whole different paradigm that we're getting into now, in terms of how we parent and how we condition our kids. But it's, the kids are ready for it. They're ready for something different from us. So it's up to us. And that's one of the reasons I work with parents is it's up to us to really shift. Our kids are waiting with open arms and take to this new way of thinking very readily.
Yes, they do. Just like you've probably heard people say that kids are wired differently when they come into this world. And it's not just, with technology, with, being more acclimated to using technology and picking it up much faster than what we all have done. But they come in wired differently emotionally and socially, and what they are desiring to learn from us. And so by us leveling our skills and social emotional agility is really important as we want things to be better for our kids.
Yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Well, wonderful. Well, I'm really looking forward to your new book that's coming out, The Powerful Girl Within. So I look forward to finding out more about when that's coming out. How can people find out more about you, Jill, and kind of follow what's happening?
Yeah, I mean, the best place to go is my website, which is ishinekids.com. And, there's some free things on there. I've got my different programs on there. But that is how they can connect with me there. I even have it's called Ask Jill. So if people have a question and they want to get a little bit of support, they can just fill that out and be in touch with me that way.
Awesome, awesome. And so I'll put that information at the end of the video here. And I also have a lot on my Thrive Thursday on Facebook. I put some of your different programs that you have available out there to just help people know that there's support and resources available to assist in empowering your child as well as yourself as a mom to assist yourself and your family. So
Great.
Well, Jill, I greatly appreciate you spending time today and sharing more about yourself and how you assist people to thrive on their journey. And I thank you, the listeners and viewers, for tuning in and to another edition of the Thrive Movement Community Guides interview series, where this month we focused on social and emotional the areas of your life and how to thrive in those. So thank you again, Jill, for being here. And until next time, have a wonderful day. Thanks, Jill.
Thanks, Beth. Bye.